It was approximately 5:30 p.m. when my son Jack asked if I could hook up my old DVD player into the living room. I had once had the DVD player hooked up to the TV, but one day about a month ago, my son got a TV of his own installment in his room. So I hooked up the old DVD player from the living room TV and replaced it with our brand new PS4. But his TV mysteriously fizzled out. Why, you should never buy a TV on Craigslist for $26. And so he asked me to watch Spongebob in the living room TV. I agreed, and after I sent the other television to the scrapyard, I hooked the DVD player up to the main TV and inserted SpongeBob Season 7 Disc 1. My son wanted to watch his favorite episode, The Curse of Bikini Bottom. But when the disc had finished loading, something strange happened. The Nickelodeon logo appeared, except it was all grainy and it was jet black. The background was a dull blood red. Then, near the very end of the logo, the background became pitch black, and the only clue was the logo's existence was a blood red highlight. I explained to my son that it was probably just the DVD being misread, but I wasn't completely sure. Then the normal FBI warning screen came up, but the letters were black and the background was dark red. There was no grain, however. After that, the DVD menu appeared like normal. I breathed a huge sigh of relief, thinking everything would go back to normal from now on. Honestly, though, with everything that I've wound up learning about these things, I don't think I did learn my lesson. Before I could start eating my pre-dinner snack, Jack told me he saw something odd. I ran into the room, fearing the worst, and sure enough, the scene selection had changed. The thumbnail for the very last episode, Squidward in Clarinet Land, was not as it should be. Instead of SpongeBob's hand holding a clarinet, it was a blood-red Squidward with a look on his face that would appear either angry or scared. I asked my son if I could see the episode if anything had happened. You see, this entire thing was exactly what I was originally afraid that it was going to be. Luckily for me, my worst fears weren't realized. Sadly, the episode wasn't what I was hoping for. The title card was extremely malformed. The normal words to the mirrored words were both stretched and overlapped each other. Instead of saying Squidward in Clarinet Land, it supposedly said Squidward to Clarinet, which in this case, if you're wondering, was where I wind up figuring out the name of the thing. The opening credits were not malformed as a title card, but instead the words were completely white, making them completely hard to make out. And the rocks in the background were replaced with pits of green fire. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a screenshot of it in time, because there was only one line of text that lasted for about a second. The text was messed up, so I couldn't exactly make out what it said. But there were two words, and the first one looked like P star U underscore. This made me think of Paul Tibbet, but I wasn't completely sure. The episode started out rather normally, except the motion was all blurry. It starts off with Squidward in a good mood as he rides his bike to the Krusty Krab. The fish in the boat ahead of him speeds off, causing pebbles to fly into his face. Squidward just ignores the pebbles and continues to ride to the Krusty Krab happily. When he gets to the Krusty Krab and pulls out his hat, Mr. Krabs rushes up to him and remarks about how happy he is. He exclaims that he has a clarinet recital later, and that nothing could dampen his mood. He even holds up his clarinet case for Krabs to see. He walks to his post, and soon a fish with bad breath walks up to him. There's drool on the fish's chin, and he asks for a Krabby Patty. The fumes whack Squidward in a comedic fashion, only it harasses him more than in the normal episode. Finally, it delivers the final blow and vanishes. Squidward's smile is now a little less meaningful, but he still looks as if he's in a good mood. He tells SpongeBob to cook up a Krabby Patty, and then turns back to the customer. The customer thanks him and leaves. Squidward says, "Ah, nothing can ruin my happy mood today." He holds his clarinet case. The next customer's baby squirts milk all over the case. The customer says, "Oh, terribly sorry, sir." Squidward, however, is not angry. He explains that there's not a drop of anything on his clarinet, and makes the mistake of opening the case for the customer to see. The baby leans over the clarinet, and a drop of drool falls into the clarinet. Squidward's smile instantly vanishes and is replaced with a frown. He has an angry look, and the screen turns blood red. I think, oh god, this is where things get bad, isn't it? Sure enough, the screen zoomed in quickly to Squidward's face as he shouts, "I can't take it anymore!" Once the color is normal, he walks back to Mr. Krabs and does and says all the stuff that happened in the episode, yada yada yada, up to the point where Mr. Krabs gets Squidward a locker. There's an extremely gruesome shot of a bloated, rotting corpse in the locker. I would have gotten a snapshot except for the following reasons. One, it was enough to make anyone puke, and two, I was way too busy making sure my son wasn't watching this. When the corpse had finally got dumped out of the locker, Squidward remarked about how filthy the locker was. Immediately, SpongeBob began cleaning. However, there wasn't the yellowish it wasn't yellowish enough, it was black and white. In other words, the only things were SpongeBob and the floor. Then something both relieving and awful happened. The DVD player stopped, and then set up an error screen. I thought my DVD player had burnt out, but luckily it was only turned off. When I turned the DVD back on, everything was as it should be. So I let my son watch The Curse of Bikini Bottom and left. That's honestly all I have as of now. I'll hopefully report soon. December 6, 2017. Sorry I haven't edited this article for quite a while. Let's just say I've been disconnected. Anyway, I regret to inform you that I have no more screenshots to show, but I do have a little bit more of a story to tell. Just last week, I was watching a Y2P entitled Zootopia, Don't Ask, when halfway through part 3, the screen froze up, except for the cruiser. I frantically waved the cruiser around the screen to see if anything would happen. Nothing. I clicked on Alt, Control, and Delete. Still nothing. But as my finger hit the spacebar, suddenly the screen whirled around in a flash of color, and a deep voice screamed, "Clarinet, which was obviously Squidward in Clarinet Land in reverse. The name of the article. The screen stopped whirling as I saw an image of SpongeBob cleaning from before, only this time it wasn't water squirting out of his body. This time it showed yellow and red showed up, revealing the liquid to be blood. Also the sequence was on in a continuous loop. The 7th time the loop played over, I heard something that sounded like SpongeBob's laugh from a distance. Then the 12th time the logo went over, there was a laughing that sounded closer, only this time it was a man's deep voice. The 19th time the loop finally ended, and when it did, a hideous face showed up on the screen for a split second. The horror of a man's face was too much to describe, and no, I'm not exaggerating that. And then the episode cut, without transitioning to Squidward happily giving a customer change. The drilling noise comes from the kitchen, causing Squidward to angrily mumble to himself, "That sponge better not be messing with my clarinet." I had noticed that he had uttered the part of the name. He threw the change to the ground and went to the kitchen, and people noticed. Suddenly, everyone dove for a loose change, and this is where something disturbing happened. Krabs charged at the people like an angry ape protecting his territory. Well, this was an angry ape protecting his money. But one fish didn't leave. Suddenly, the background colors inverted, and it almost seemed like the background was melting. Krabs' eyes became as black as coal, and he lunged for the fish. Suddenly, everything in the world had warped except for Krabs and his victim. Then he grabbed the fish's throat and started torturing him. He slammed the fish's head on the floor in a disgustingly realistic and gruesome manner. But soon, blood squirted from his head like a volcano or a geyser. And now the fish was screaming and moaning for mercy, but Krabs, instead of mercy, violently jerked the fish off of his face and whispered in a deep, twisted voice, "Ye have messed with the wrong crab. Now you deal with me, laddie." I turned around and threw up in a garbage bin. Suddenly my computer went dead. I tried to turn it on, but it wouldn't turn on. I took out the hard drive. It had been snapped in half and horribly burnt. I looked more like 2 pieces of charcoal now. So 2 days ago I had gotten a new hard drive for my computer, and mostly forgot that day up until a week ago. And that's pretty much all I have to say. I don't have anything else more to go with this. Hopefully, though, whatever happens, I can forget about this. I don't think I even want to remember. I don't want to remember this. And that, my little shadows, was Squidward in Clarinet Land, but reversed. A SpongeBob Lost Episode Creepypasta. My final thoughts on the story? Well, I'm gonna be honest with all of you here. I know I've narrated this story, I think last year or something, but it feels good to finally go back to an actual good creepypasta and sit there and, more or less, bleh, just more or less give it my own review. Because I haven't done a review for this one at all. But ultimately, let's actually get into the review itself. This creepypasta was actually pretty decent. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, yes, it does have its form of cliches and things like that, but it still, for some odd reason, works. I guess it's probably because of the fact that, the whole thing is just more of an alternate ending, alternate episode, more or less, of the actual Squidward and Clarinet Land creepypasta. Sorry, scratch that. The actual Squidward and Clarinet Land episode. I do apologize for that little mistake on my end. But ultimately speaking, this was a pretty decent creepypasta. Now, is it amazing? Not really, but it definitely has a lot of effort put into it. Mostly with the grammar, the storyline, and the actual way everything flowed out. I mean, like I said, there are cliches like the blood, the face, the things like that, but for some reason, I don't hate that. I actually more or less think, how do I put this? I think that it kind of more or less enhances the story itself, which in retrospect is actually pretty good. I mean, but then again, I don't really have a whole lot to actually say about this creepypasta because, well, let's be honest, people. I think we all already know what our thoughts are on this creepypasta story. But if I really had to say, I think I've already made a mention of the negative sides, didn't I? I don't know, my brain's not working too much today, but that's what happens when you sit there and you read bad creepypastas all day. It's like alcohol. It'll ruin your brain, and it'll melt, and your brain will melt out of your ears. But for me, it slowly implodes and then melts. But yeah, the good things about the story is that it's a very interesting storyline, very well detailed with the grammar and the everything else, and ultimately I genuinely enjoyed the story a lot. Now, if I had to say a negative thing, it would be more of the cliches that were included in the story. I mean, it didn't exactly kill the story for me personally, but it definitely could have been something that, well, maybe could have been something a little bit, how do I put this bluntly, could have been either avoided or toned down a bit. But that's only my personal thoughts. What did you guys think about this creepypasta? Did you guys enjoy it? Did you guys not? Also, what would you have personally done to help make the story a lot better? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. I'm the Shadow Reader. Thanks again for watching today's episode, and if you're brand new here to this channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. And of course, like always, roll the outro because I'm out. Your mouth goes dry with each battered breath. You try to scream, your mind begs to leave. Glued to your computer screen. The killers they slash, the tapes burn and crash. The cartridge you bought will be your final haunt. The rituals of hate will seal your fate. The tears you shed will be from the fear-gripping horror-driven nightmarish gore-filled, terrorizing, hateful, burning, violent, rage-inducing, knife-slashing, blood-splattering, silent screams. Only time will tell if you will escape this online hell. Your horror-filled obsessions will come with its own regressions. Your pathetic screams will not be heeded in any way, because your nightmares will come at any day.